Hello everybody, welcome to 8.1. We are almost done with this course. We only got a couple more things to do and then I need to talk about our final project. So, 8.1, we have two different things we need to look at. We need to look at tuples and we need to look at lists. And basically the idea of this is, up until now, I can make a variable and set it equal to one piece of data. For example, in this case, I have one student and their name is Bob, all right? However, what we can do in Python is instead of just having one item called student, we could have students equals Adam, Bob, Charles, etc. And we can make an entire group of items for our code to be associated with. So we can make an entire set of data from here. And there's two different ways we can do it. There's multiple ways, but for now we're just going to look at these two. The first thing we're going to look at is a tuple, or maybe tuple. I don't know. I've never heard an expert pronounce it in person, but tuples or tuples, whatever you want to call them. These are types of data cannot be modified. So we can't change the order, mix things around, add things, delete items, anything else like that. It's kind of like establishing this list of items that we cannot change or alter in any way. Lists, however, can be modified. So we can actually rearrange the items, remove items, add them, mix them up, whatever we want to do to change them. All right, so tuples, they use parentheses, and in lists, they use these square brackets, okay? So basically on here right now, what we have is a tuple. My list of students is Adam, Bob, and Charles, all right? Now, if I were to ask Python to print students, let's see what we get, okay? I get them inside of a set of parentheses showing up. So I can show all three of these items at once. If I wanted to change it to a list, all I have to do is change the brackets. And again, we're going to get just about the same thing, the only difference being those square brackets versus the parentheses around it. Okay? So that's the first part. We can set a kind of like a variable name, that's students right here, and we can set it equal to this whole group of data. All right, now what if I only wanted to acknowledge one item from here? What we can do is we can say inside of here, students, and then I can put a bracket, and then I can put the number, item, or user, or individual that I want to be in here. Now, when we looked back on our ranged loops, remember for I in range of 10, we would print I. Do you remember what number we started counting with? It wasn't 1. It was actually 0. So let me put in a 0 for that and run it. Okay, and I just get Adam. That means that hopefully Bob should be 1. Okay, and that also means that Charles should be 2. Okay, let's add a few more onto here because I want to try something kind of interesting. Let's say Dan, Evan, and Frank. Just going in the alphabet, the first name I can think of. So students 2 will still give us the same thing, right? And we can go all the way to the end on here. What if I did instead students -1? Wonder what that would give us. Okay, that gave us Frank. So what we can also do is start acknowledging items from the right side working its way in. So this would be -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and Adam should be -6. So let's test that to make sure it works. And yeah, we get Adam from there. So we can use these numbers to acknowledge items from inside of this list of items. For all practical purposes right now, our tuples, we just use parentheses if we know we don't want to change anything within our code. But the majority of this stuff is going to be learning about lists, where we're going to change and add items and remove things and anything else like that. All right. So let's take a look at that first one. So what I can do is I'm going to print students right here, just so we can list them all and see them like in a list showing up to us. But then anything else that shows up after that, I'm going to ask to print students again. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to do some code here, and then we're going to see the change. This is the before printing of the item, so it's going to give us just this list. And then we're going to do something, and then it's going to give us the after effects of that. All right. So the first thing we're going to learn is append. All right. So what I'm going to say is students dot append. So I'm basically saying, hey, I want this list of students to append or add. Let's add George to the end of our list. And then we're going to print students. So again, we're going to see the before effects, and then we're going to see the after effects of this. So we'll run it. All right, Adam, Bob, Charles, Dan, Evan, Frank. But then in the second one, we added George to the list. Okay, so append allows us to add something to the end of it. There are additional things that we can do beyond what I'm going to go over in here, but right for now, I just want to show some of the basic building blocks. You're welcome to look at all these different items. If you just Google Python append, you'll find all the different keywords that you can do with this stuff. All right, we're going to do one that's a little self-explanatory, the remove function. So again, I'm going to say students dot remove. Let's remove Bob. Never really liked Bob. Let's see what happens when we run this now. Okay, Adam, Bob, Charles, Dan, Evan, Frank. Adam, Charles, Dan, Evan, Frank. So we actually were able to take items out. Now, if we have two instances of Bob, right, let's try that. We're still going to keep that second Bob here. What it does is it basically starts reading through this in the order that it exists and say, oh, I found Bob, time to remove that from the list. And it'll only do it once. So just something to keep in mind as well. All right. So remove is pretty straightforward. All right. What we can do next is I'm going to use something called len. So I'm going to do the len of students. And then I'm going to students.append George again, because we're going to see what happens with this len statement. So we're not going to get the list of students, we're going to get the len of the students, whatever that means. So let's try it. All right, we get 6 and then we get 7. So let's take a look. I wonder how 6, because that's this first print statement, I wonder how 6 applies to students. And then when we add George, we get 7. So adding must be something with like counting or something like that. If we take a look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items inside of this list. Ah, that's where the len statement comes from, because we have 6 items. Then we added George, and we print the len again, and then it will count the number after the addition of George, and that gave us 7. All right, so that's pretty much like what's going on here. The len statement can be very useful. Let me show you what you can do with it. All right, this is going to be a little bit of an advanced application of everything. We're going to kind of use this as a nice little review, and we'll see where it goes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say class size equals len of students. Right, so right now, class underscore size is going to be equal to the len, or however many items are in the students. So let's print class size. Okay, so we're still getting that 6. It's kind of like print len of students, except I made a variable to be equal to it, and then I'm going to print that variable later. But I want to do more with this. What I'm going to say is for I in range, so those are those ranged loops that we learned about before, of the class size. So it's going to be for I in range basically 6, because that's the number of items. If I add more, that number is going to go up. All right, so for I in range of class size, I'm going to print students bracket I. Now we're starting to get some weird grindy code happening. So let's see what goes on when we run it. Adam, Bob, Charles, Dan, Evan, Frank. But each one was individually printed as an item. So what happened here was students equals all of these items. We found the class size, and then for I in range of class size, we're basically saying repeat this for each student in the class. I would like to print the I number, like ranking of the student. So remember, I starts at 0. So print students 0, that prints Adam. Then the code repeats, all right? I takes a value of 1. So now I, students bracket 1 gives us Bob, okay? Then I goes to 2, that gives us Charles. I goes to 3, which gives us Dan. I goes to 4, which gives us Evan. I goes to 5, which gives us Frank. And then when I hits 6, the code stops. Because remember, programming starts counting at 0. We can even make this a little bit of a more condensed item. We don't even need this variable right here. I can just take len of students and put it inside the for I in range len of students. In our next activity, we're going to actually make a deck of cards, and this is going to allow us to print all of the cards within the deck, and we'll be able to do some other neat things with it as well. All right. So if you have any questions, be sure to let me know. This is kind of like a quick example of how structured data works. And yeah, it's a great way to just kind of learn how to play with how to put multiple pieces of information all attached to one item. All right. So best of luck playing around with this. Your best thing that you can do is hop onto Google and look at all the other items. There's like pop, there's like index. We're going to learn how to shuffle these items, like mix them all up entirely in the next chapter. We're going to learn some neat stuff. So if you want to kind of like play around with this and see what you can find, go for it. All right, so that is the end of 8.1. Pretty brief item, but hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching.